Regular meeting of the Niles Main District Library for February 21st, 2024 to order at 7 o'clock.
Trustee Kadir. Trustee Kadir is absent with prior notice. Trustee Derblick. Trustee Schoenfeld. Trustee Botello. Treasurer Botello.
Present.
Secretary Rosansky.
Here.
Vice President Trunco.
Here.
And President Keene.
Present.
Thank you.
Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the January 17th, 2024 meeting?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the January 17, 2024 regular board meeting.
Suzanne, is that you? Thank you.
Any comments, or are we ready for a roll call? Okay, Margaret.
Trustee Derblick. Yes. Trustee Schoenfeld. Yes. Treasurer Botello.
Yes.
Secretary Rosansky.
Yes.
Vice President Trunco.
Yes.
President Keene.
Yes.
6-0 passes.
Okay, on our list for public comment is Elliot Osherman.
Good evening, Board. This is Elliot Osherman. As usual, I've provided copies of these comments to your Executive Director so that you can follow along. As usual, I address my comments, with possibly 2 exceptions, to the entirety of the Board. And I start, as usual, with my 9 declarative sentences. First, that I will neither be silenced nor interrupted, nor will we, nor will the community. Also, I will remember the actions of the Board, both good and bad, as will we, as will the community. And finally, I will vote for the Board at the next opportunity, scheduled for April 1st, 2025, if not choosing early voting, as will we, as will the community. Today, I'm going to deal with 2 quotes, then 2 facts. At last month's meeting, I mentioned I would review my definition of stupidity and ignorance. First quote from Victor Max: "A fact is information minus emotion. An opinion is information plus experience. Ignorance is an opinion lacking information, and stupidity is opinion that ignores a fact." This is my first exception. I have in the past differentiated between referring to someone as compared to addressing someone. You know to whom this refers. I will not name her specifically. If the left shoe fits, wear it. My second exception to addressing the entirety of the Board is another quote. Quote, "One doesn't have to operate with great malice to do great harm. The absence of empathy and understanding are sufficient." Unquote. A quote from Charles M. Blow. Again, you know to whom this refers. Again, I won't mention a name, lest I be accused of bullying. If the right shoe fits, wear it. The first fact. The library has received a report regarding staffing needs and operating suggestions. Please pay close attention to it. It has a lot of valid suggestions and ways to address future years' library needs. The second fact. Illinois will have a primary election. That date is March 19th, but early voting begins in the suburbs on March 4th. Most members of the library community can vote at Village Hall in Niles. Please vote, early if possible, on the 19th if not. As you do, please bear both of the above quotes in mind. The next library election is April 1, with early voting starting about March 18th, 2025. But the Illinois primary for the general election in 2024 is less than a month away. Voting is not only a privilege, not only a right, but a responsibility as well. Thank you and good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No
Margaret?
other public comment.
1 second, please. I'd like to ask if there's anyone present that would like to give public comment that has not. No. Okay, yes, go ahead. Can you turn your microphone on?
I believe it was Elliot Osherman who said he had been given a copy of some documentation. And actually, the only information that came out of the Attorney General's office was an email directed to me and another email directed to you, copied to me. And I was just wondering, how did Elliot Osherman receive that information? It must have come from the library?
I don't know, because I don't know what you're talking about. You could have asked me before we got here so
Okay,
that I
no,
was
this is
prepared.
fine. It's in public comments. I'm sorry, Valerie, do you
There
have a
was a
response?
FOIA request submitted by Mr. Osherman that was met in compliance with FOIA.
So there was a FOIA request about this
Document.
report to the Attorney General's office, which means, again, somehow that information that's part of this library ended up in the hands of the public. All right, I just needed to clarify. Thank you so much.
Would you mind sending me a copy or an email with that information so that I know what you're talking about?
Well, you can look up the emails from Shannon Barnaby, the Illinois Attorney General's office. You
So
received them.
can you do that or no?
No, you have them already. Just Google.
Thank you.
Just search them.
Great. Okay.
Thank you again, Valerie.
All right, we are moving on to payment of the bills.
I'd like to make a motion to approve operating expenses for $222,638.18, payroll expenses of $273,898.36, special reserve expenses of $12,250, for a total monthly expense of $508,786.54.
Okay, any comments or questions on the bills? All right, take a vote, please, Margaret.
Trustee Derblick?
Yes.
Trustee Schoenfeld? Treasurer Botello?
Yes.
Secretary Rosansky?
Yes.
Vice President Trunko?
Yes.
President Keene?
Yes,
6-0 passes.
thank you. Treasurer Botello, you have a report?
Yes, Madam President. So the financial report through January 31st of 2024 reads as following. The beginning balance back on December 31st, 2023 was $13,752,608. Revenue we came in during this period as replacement taxes is $41,508. Investment income for $36,891. Passport fees, $11,729. Book sales, $1,477. Other revenue, $2,784, for a total of $94,389. With the expenditures, including employee salaries, $277,462. Employee fringe benefits, $55,759. Social Security at $20,016. Unemployment, $2,224, with a subtotal of $355,461. Operating expenses includes library materials, $37,826. Library operations, $39,416. General and administrative expenses, $31,949. Capital expenditures at $12,250. Utilities, $9,321. Building and equipment maintenance, $19,118. Subtotal of $149,924. At the ending balance as of January 31st on our balance sheets indicates $13,374,185. Any questions?
No, thank you.
Thank you, Madam
Thank you,
President.
Treasurer Botello. Go ahead.
I don't have a question on your actual report, Roberto. Thank you for the report. I do have a statement, though, as far as our income statement that the library does have. In one of my meetings this week with Executive Director Valerie, as well as my own due diligence, we should be at 58% right now across the board on all of our line items, and we are high on some of these. We're low on some of them too, don't get me wrong. But just for an example, legal fees, we're back up to we're at 118% of our actual percentage of budget where we should be. I ask everybody if we could try not to just blow right through the budget this year, because there's some things that we're approaching where we're going to be in some trouble with budget line items and everything else to go over. So if everybody could just be aware of that and maybe take a look at that, that would really be good.
Yeah, thank you. I think that the budget line item for the lawyers is due to the union contract somewhat, and that's why the lawyer's not here tonight either, because we're trying to be more conscious of that line, so.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's some other things on here. Like I said, I'm not going to go through each one, but if you go through some of them, anything that's over 58% this month we're pacing ahead of what the budget actually allows for, so.
If you look to past years, that isn't an uncommon thing. When I was treasurer, you would have one go up and then they start to level out. We just might not have gotten, because some bills we have to pay upfront, like earlier in the year. So therefore, the percentage goes up higher, sooner than it would for others, as far as where they technically feel it should be for the month. So that should level out.
Yeah, I'm looking like at the accounting, I'm looking at our legal fees,
And I understand that.
some of these things, the total that we have budgeted, for instance, even like legal notices, we're already at 100%. So if we have to put any more in there,
I totally
we're gonna
agree
blow
with
right
you.
past it,
I'm
yeah.
not saying that, but as far as other items,
yeah, I
they
understand
will
that.
level out.
I understand that. So, okay, I just wanted to bring that
Thank
up.
you.
No problem.
All right, so then we're on to number 8, the executive director's report.
I would like to highlight some of the things in my written report, as well as I have some items to add that came up after I was able to put the packet together. So one of the things I want to highlight is that we did find, based on our discussions at the last board meeting, I was able to find a highly credentialed parliamentarian named Nancy Sylvester, and she does have a website if you'd like to look her up, where I'd be happy to send that information to the board. And I know that President Keene is working with the board to finalize a date for that training for myself and the board sometime in April. And the parliamentarian has requested any topics that would specifically be of interest to the board for her to include in the training. So just if you will let me know what you're interested in including and asking her, I'd be happy to give that to her in advance so that we can better prepare an agenda. And I'm really looking forward to that training myself. So I think it's going to be really good for all of us. And I do have 3 executive director meet and greet events coming up for the public to get to know myself and any trustees who are available to come meet the public with me. I'd be happy for you to join us. So I just wanted to highlight this on our meeting recording. The first one is going to be Monday, March 4th from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m., Tuesday, March 12th from 2 to 3 p.m., and Saturday, March 16th from 10:30 to 11:30 a.m. So I invite any member of the public who is interested in coming to talk to me about your ideas for the library to please come join us. I really look forward to meeting everyone. And then the things that I have to add are that Maker Fest is this coming Sunday, February 25th. I encourage everyone to join us for that. It's going to be a really exciting event. It's very popular every year, and it'll be my first one, so I'll be there to meet people as well. We do have, for the board, just to make you aware, the Night of the Roses Gala will be coming up in April, so I'll be sending more information to you about that. That is not a library event, but it is something that we usually support in the community. The Matrix Consultants report is in communication for this month, but we have decided collectively, because the report was so extensive, to give us more time to review it, that the vendor will come speak about the report in March, so we will revisit that topic in March. We do have our meetings in in this room, the big room, for this month and next month, February and March. And I understand that the request was for April, we would potentially return back to the boardroom. So that's what we've planned for. We do also have a large event in this large room in April. So if there's any request for changes for the room, please let me know before the April meeting. And we did, based on the question by Vice President Trunco at the last meeting, we were able to downgrade the amount of times we have Ultra Clean come to steam clean the bathrooms from 12 times a year to 6 times a year to save on that cost. And we're going to see the quality of the bathroom cleanliness after we've downgraded. That is the lowest amount of service that that vendor offers, is 6 times a year. So we're going to try that out to save costs and see if there is any change to the cleanliness of the bathrooms.
Yeah, just so the public understands why I asked for that. I myself own a cleaning company. We used to be commercial, now it's residential. But what Cintas does is they basically take a steam cleaner and just go over the grout. It's nothing special that they do besides just steam cleaning it. It's something that we could actually even buy a steamer ourselves and have the cleaning company that does our business overnight. It should take them no more than 5 minutes to do it. But Cintas charges a very high premium for it. And it's one of those things that we could probably cut down on. So I appreciate Rich and everybody getting that done. So thank you.
And I also want to thank Trustee Trunco for bringing that up and for our director for moving forward. This was brought up in the past, but because of all the confrontation, it was ignored. So thank you. It's a smart move. Thanks again.
And that's all I have. Thank you so much.
Do we know where we stand with the final count on the Windy City Bowl stuff?
I did, but I was going to discuss it at that part of the
Okay.
agenda.
Okay. I'm sorry. I apologize. I thought you were going to do it then.
I would just like to bring up one thing. I want to thank you, Director Marshall, for giving us a copy of that article of your interview with the Trib. And I just wanted to make a few clarifications. They've brought up, of course, some of the disinformation from the past, I guess.
Is this the right part of the meeting for this?
Yes, it is. I guess because you're with the library and they must have databases of old information, they keep repeating it. So I just think it's important for all of us to realize what the facts are, and hopefully they'll stop slamming our library. They mentioned attempts to slash the budgets. In 2021, the then President Derblick, which was me, implemented a budget review process strictly for the emphasis on review, which required supervisors to attend and explain their current fiscal year spending and justify their budget requests for the upcoming year. In 21 and 22, the budget line items were diligently tracked and documented in detail by the treasurer for the entire board, which highlighted that budget amounts were excessive and unused due to the economic downturn. There was no slashing of budgets. Justification of costs were identified with the anticipation of increased costs, and the increased budget dollars were included. So yes, there was a lot of controversy, but we didn't slash the budgets. Then, of course, the
Trustee
hiring
Derblick,
freeze.
this is really the director's
is not
report,
a-
not
Excuse
your
me,
report.
this is
So if you'd like
regarding the
to,
direct.
if you would like
The
to use
hiring
this and other,
freeze
then we can
was
do it.
also
in other-
mentioned.
Thank you. We are going to move
Due to the
on.
economic downturn caused by COVID, borrowings and in-person
Director Marshall,
visits
you're done
drastically
your
decreased,
report.
70 to 50%. Yet staff
I'm not gonna-
verbalized being overlooked. In
you're
response,
done,
the
then we can
then
move on.
President Derblick implemented a hiring freeze. In 2021, for
Trustee
two
Derblick, this
reasons.
is not the appropriate time. Thank you.
Perform a
We're gonna move on.
much-needed staff.
Go ahead.
Excuse me, I need to share this information with the
You
public
can share it
because
during
it's
other,
false.
please. This is the director's portion of the meeting, not yours. Thank you very
And
much.
this is part of our director's report, our director's interview.
Go ahead, we're moving on.
Two reasons the hiring freeze
there's
was
nothing else for
implemented
program
was one, to perform
statistics
a
or library
much-needed
highlights, we
staffing
can move on.
My
evaluation.
part of the report is
Second was to
Thank you. And then we,
reevaluate current
are on number
methods
9,
and
communications.
processes. While there was a
Go ahead.
decrease in staff, the library still maintained
Trustee Derblick, you need to
overstaffing
stop,
levels.
Or we're going to have to ask you to
Please
leave the
do
meeting.
not interrupt me. Weekly department staffing numbers indicated a drastic decrease in person visits,
we move
yet
on?
our staffing numbers
anything for
were
communications?
overstaffed.
There
The
is,
third
but I
item
will
was a
need to
reduction in cleaning of the
discuss
library
Okay, then
building
maybe
during
we need to have a
COVID.
recess because
During
this is silly.
COVID, the
I'd like to make a
library was
motion for a
closed
5-minute
or
recess.
partially closed.
Second.
Take a vote, please.
Well, I guess the library board is not interested in the facts getting out to the
The
public.
facts according to you.
Clearly.
Thank you.
On the motion.
Anything I'm reading
vote,
can be
Margaret. Okay,
justified
Vice
by
President
library
Jason,
reports.
you motion. Patty, you second?
Yes.
Okay. Give me 1 second.
Thank you, trustees, for refusing to allow the public to finally hear some of the
Trustee
facts.
Durbulick? Trustee Durbulick, recess?
No.
Trustee Schoenfeld?
It appears maybe we don't. need it anymore.
Treasurer Botello?
Yes.
Secretary Rosansky? Yes. Vice President Trunko?
Yes.
And President Keene?
Yes. 7:21. Thank you. I'd like to call the meeting back to order, 7:28 PM.
Okay, we'll do the roll call, and that is trustee Derblick? Trustee Schoenfeld?
Here.
Trustee Treasurer Batello?
Present.
Secretary Rosansky?
Here.
Vice President Trunko?
Here.
And President Keene.
Present. Let me just backtrack a little bit, Valerie, and ask if you had anything else you wanted to comment on for statistics or highlights. I think you said no, but
No, I don't have any additional comments for director's report, activity statistics, or monthly program statistics.
thank you. And we were going to move on then to communications, I think.
Okay, so in the communications section, we had 2 items, the first of which I already talked about being the matrix study, which we will further discuss at next month's meeting when the vendor is actually here to do a presentation. And the other item in communication is Chapter 2 of the Standards for Illinois Public Libraries, which we went over Chapter 1 last month. What I typically do, or what I have done with my previous library in the past, is go over the checklist instead of reading the entire chapter. So I'll do that now. Under governance and administration, which is what Chapter 2 is, the checklist says the library has an elected or appointed board of trustees, which we do. The library has a qualified library administrator, which we do, and I'm happy to be here. The library administrator files an Illinois Public Library Annual Report, which is also known as the IPLAR, with the Illinois State Library, which we do annually. The library administrator prepares monthly reports, including statistics of operations and services for the board's review, which we just had the chance to review in the packet. The library administrator and/or library board treasurer prepares monthly fiscal reports for the board's review, which again we've just done. The library has a mission statement and a long-range strategic plan, which just so the public knows, that is one of the things that I was hired to help do, and we will be working on with the board and the staff collectively in the near future. The library maintains an understanding of the community by surveys, hearings, and other means, and that's one of the reasons why I'm having the Meet the Director events. We do have surveys going out for the public, and we appreciate any other feedback from the public that you can provide. Library board reviews library policies on a regular basis, which is on tonight's agenda, and we discussed last month as well, so we're moving in the right directions. The library board members participate in local, state, regional, and national decision-making that will benefit libraries. The library develops an orientation program for new board members, which President Keene has asked me to look into what our procedure has been for orientating new board members. So I will start to look at that process, and I appreciate any input from the trustees or any questions. Library board members attend local, regional, state, and national conferences pertinent to libraries when fiscally possible, which I know this mentions specifically the board, but we do have several staff members, including myself, attending the PLA conference that's coming up. So we will get some good ideas from that conference. The library keeps adequate records of library operations and follows proper procedures for disposal of records, which we do have a procedure for, and that's what we contract with Iron Mountain to do. The library complies and keeps current with appropriate Illinois and federal laws pertaining to public libraries. Yes, that's something that I work with our attorney with, and other networking sites and groups to make sure I'm on top of. Library has a board-approved set of written bylaws that govern the conduct of the Board of Trustees and its relationship to the library and staff, which I know we discussed last month as part of policy review that we'll be doing in the future. The library maintains insurance covering property and liability, including volunteer liability. And yes, I did confirm that with our insurance providers, so we are up to date on that. And the library has a written succession plan focused on both internal and external talent development to fill anticipated needs for library leadership and other key personnel. That's something that I will be working on with other administrative staff to make sure that we have something in place. Any questions or comments from the board?
I'd like to thank you for including these. I think it's very helpful for the board to see this. It's been a long time for some of us, and for those of us who are new, it's never been. But so thank you for including that. And I think that there are some things in here that it's good for us to hear this, because now we can see that we're going in the right direction and doing things, anticipating doing things that are in here. And one of the things I know that's going to be included in when the parliamentarian comes for the trustee training is going over what your duties are as opposed to what the board's duties are, and it's in here, right, too. Administering library policy, including management of day-to-day operations, collection management, technology plans, and staffing is delegated to the library administrator. So I think it will be helpful for all us to understand what our roles are. And then I just wanted to encourage the trustees to go ahead and take advantage of the fact that we are supposed to participate in continuing education, whether that be attending a conference somewhere like Springfield, or even if it's online. I think I emailed trustees some information about how to do that in other places online yesterday or today. So I would like to encourage everyone to do that. Thank you.
Mhm. I believe for our library, although I'd have to look it up to confirm, but I believe it's September. Mhm.
Probably to our director. I realize we've followed these checklists year after year. Do you need to submit our responses to this checklist, or it's just to keep, it's just for your personal record or
This
reference?
is for continuing education purposes, but we do use this book every year when we apply for state funding for the per capita grant. And for the per capita grant, we have to cite which chapter in this book we are using the money to spend towards in any fiscal year.
Right, yeah, that I recall. What I'm concerned about is if some of the items on these checklists we are not following, it's not reported somewhere. You just will make arrangements for it to occur.
Exactly.
So that's all in-house. That's how this is handled.
Yes, the
Okay, I
per
just
cap-
wanted to make sure I understood that.
Absolutely. I apologize. I didn't
No,
mean to
no,
interrupt you.
I just, while we're sitting here, I know I've done this for years, but I just wanted to know if this was reported to someone. But
No,
it's
only
not, it's
through
just
the
for
per
us.
capita grant process. And in the per capita grant, the guidance provided is that they understand not every library is going to meet every item on this checklist every year. The goal is to make sure we're working towards it continually.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, it's important for us to meet these standards regardless of whether they're reported anywhere or not. Thank you. Okay, so I think then Secretary's report, you don't have one this month, do you, Secretary Mazansky? No? Okay.
That's why I was asking about this, though, because I know that's when I have to do.
Yeah, it is September. Okay, so 11, unfinished business. And A is discuss winter reading program with Windy City Bulls free ticket giveaway.
I just need to find my.
Sure,
where I
take
wrote
your
it
time.
down.
Thank you.
Okay, so as of right now, we have 52 tickets remaining, and the tickets that were given out originally from the Windy City Bulls for the Youth Services Winter Reading Program are now being given out as a prize for the Adult Services Winter Reading Program, which ends at the end of this month. So I encourage the public to please sign up and participate, and please get one of our lovely prizes. We really appreciate the support of the Windy City Bulls. I've gotten excellent feedback because you can get tickets for your whole family. The vendor is very happy to host, as many people as want tickets. So please come join us, please participate, and thank you, Trustee Trunco, for helping us work with this vendor and develop a positive relationship with them. And we look forward to working with them again.
Oh, and I'd like to thank the staff for really pushing the program as well. When I was there last week with my family, I actually spoke to Joe Landa, who's the head of ticket sales for the Windy City Bulls, and he donated 100 tickets to give to the staff for their help with this. So I have those with me tonight to give to the library, so the staff could also enjoy, not just the community, but the staff could also enjoy going to a game. It's free parking. The concessions are relatively cheap. I think a hot dog and fries are like $6. So it's for a community, especially nowadays with professional sports teams, it's impossible to go with a family of 5 or 6 people. So, I really appreciate all the help from the staff as well. So thank you.
Thank you so much on behalf of the staff. I know my husband will be happy about it.
Thank you, Trustee Trunco. Okay, so B is policy review schedule. Put your microphone on.
No. I was just going to ask, for the matrix, you just have page 42, but it's quite a few pages. How many what do we go up to for that? So I put it aside.
Oh, the matrix study is 116 pages long.
Goes to 156? Okay. I got this.
Yep.
They fell and they're all out of
Okay.
order, so 166. Okay, I'll write it. 156. Thank you.
Valerie, did you want to talk about the policy review schedule?
So for the policy review schedule, I did write a memo, which is in the packet with my suggestions, but basically I'll just overview my recommendation at the bottom. Page 157.
Sorry, I'm going through all of this to get there.
That's okay. Let me know when you're ready. Okay. My recommendation as far as policy review is to have the board form a committee because it is extensive work to review policies. And just from at my previous library, we had a committee that did not rotate, and the 2 trustees that were assigned regularly to policy felt like it was a lot of work just for 2 trustees, but it is generally a big commitment. So my recommendation is to actually have a rotational committee of 3 trustees on a 3-month rotational basis. And my recommendation is that the first policy that we review, which I mentioned at last month's meeting, is the personnel manual in order to align language and benefits for non-union employees with those outlined in the union contract.
Now, is that one where they're meeting with the union because that's pertaining to?
No, so the review we would be doing is the current the current personnel manual, which pertains to non-union employees.
Okay.
But the union contract has already passed, and what I'd like to do is update the language in the policies for the non-union staff to more closely match the policies for the union staff, if possible, or at least for us to consider that.
And that is the way I feel it should be. But because I know there was also a committee supposed to be to go over stuff with the union about some other stuff. That's why I was
Yes, so
asking.
this is not a full list of the policies we would be reviewing, but the union also has requested that we potentially form a committee to review remote work, a potential remote work policy, which we do not currently have, and a committee to go over insurance options for employees.
So what you're suggesting is 3 different committees?
Potentially, yes. It depends on when the union asks for us to meet about the potential remote work policy and the insurance. If the work overlaps, it might be a good idea for the board to have multiple committees happening at the same time.
I have a question regarding the personnel policy one. I know,
Yes.
like, when we get to our bylaws and things, we need a supermajority of a 5 yay vote to get that done. On this, is this just a majority of the board that would have to approve it, or is it still a 5-2 because it's personnel?
My understanding is but I would have to review the current bylaws and the trustee manual. But my understanding is the only thing that requires supermajority is your bylaws.
It is the bylaws. Regular policy is 4.
Okay. Yeah, I would, I mean, I'm okay with forming the committees. I just, if we're going to do anything with this, we would need a supermajority, then I would just say, let's just have a committee of a whole at that
But
point.
see, the way I understand and the way we've done committees in the past is the committee meets and gets whatever information and then reports back to the board as a whole.
Yes.
And then the board as a whole decides.
Yeah, no,
to handle
on something that, like this, where there's a majority, then that's more than acceptable. But if we're going to need a supermajority to not do it as a board as a whole, committee as a whole, then you may take two people's time and really, for lack of better words, waste their time, because if we don't have 5 people agreeing to it, then it's going to be, this stuff here, 2 people, 1 person, that's fine. But I think when we get to the supermajority, we should just do it as a committee as a whole and have an open meeting as a board. That would be my suggestion.
But basically, my understanding, and you please correct me if I'm wrong in my understanding, is that we are talking first policies. And then when we get to bylaws, if we want or need to review them, fine. You know, we could do one a month. That's cool.
I agree with Trustee Trunco's suggestion as far as the bylaws, that likely would be a good idea for a committee of the whole. And the idea of committee work in general is just that because decisions are not made in committee work, you can be a little bit more relaxed as far as Robert's rules and things like that to encourage more open discussion. The purpose of smaller committees for reviewing all other policies is just because it's such extensive work to try and get the work done faster. And it's easier to have 2 or 3 trustees schedule multiple meetings than it is to have everyone.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
That's all I have as far as this suggestion.
Well,
It would-
then, ideally, the first 2, well, actually, all 3 of them are kind of important, so 3 committees is probably a good way to go. And then we could hit policies, because we're doing the stuff pertaining to non-union, if I understand you correctly.
The personnel manual.
Thank you. My wording might not be proper. Then the second one is pertaining to insurance. And the third one is pertaining to the work from home.
Yes.
So that would be 3 separate committees, I'm
Yes.
assuming. So technically, I would think if I was a non-union person, I would think stuff pertaining to me is pretty darn important, and it better have a committee now. But same with the others. They're important, the insurance and the work from home. So should we start them, how soon do you think?
My goal with bringing this forward is so that we do get started as soon as possible. Typically, the scheduling and appointments of that are done by the board president. So I am just making suggestions here, but I would like to start the review of the personnel manual as soon as possible because we have the reference of the union contract already ready, so we're not waiting for anything else. The
Okay.
other topics we are waiting for the union to give us dates for.
Okay.
Well, and there's 6 of us here tonight. There's no reason why we can't split this up among the whole board, so that way it doesn't fall on
Granted,
the same
granted,
2 or 3 people all the time.
Granted.
Yeah, so I did hear back from trustees that were interested in working on the union committees. And I'm just waiting to hear back now from the union when they are ready to do that. And so all the trustees that responded yes to that will be on committees, so you know who you are. And I will let you know when I get more information from the union. And as far as the
other 2?
policies, well, that's 2 right there, because there's 2 for the union. And the third one for the policies, I'm interested to know if there's if you guys, how you feel about the rotation that Valerie is suggesting of 3 months. Is that,
Do you really feel it's necessary? There's that much to go over for, you're
Yes.
saying for the policy?
Yes, we
Not-
have
Not the one
a-
pertaining to the staff that is non-union.
So right
That's-
now, my suggestion is to discuss who would like to do the personnel manual
Yeah.
part of policy review. And I would suggest, once we're done with the personnel manual, a rotation for the
Okay.
next policy.
Okay, okay. That's how I
And-
understood it.
You were suggesting 3 trustees, and then that would be an open meeting, right? So is it possible to do it with just 2 trustees? It's up to us, correct?
It is possible to do with just 2 trustees. Any committee meeting is still an open meeting and falls under Open Meetings Act.
Okay. So it doesn't matter whether we have 2 or 3.
Does not matter.
Okay. How does the board feel about the number of trustees on the policy committee?
I
I'm
mean,
okay either way.
I'm fine
Okay.
to be on it. If we're going to do the rotation after we're done with the personnel information, I'm okay to be on the first part of it. If somebody else wants to be on it with me, I think that's great. And as far as the union, now, there were 2 committees. You're saying you're going to have the same 2 do both things with the union, or are you having 2 different? Because one is with the insurance and one is with,
Right. So for the union, we're looking at 2 separate things, and I had 4 trustees respond to me that they were interested
okay.
in being on those committees. So 2 trustees will be on the work from home committee, 2 trustees will be on the insurance committee.
Okay.
So those 4 trustees maybe don't want to be involved with the policy review because they're already doing something else. So if you are a trustee who is not involved in the union and you would like to be on policy, please let me know, and I will start planning those meetings as well.
I'm okay. I know I was one of the people who responded with that I would do the union committee, but I'm okay with rotating into the other as well if
Okay,
needed.
thank you. All right, so I feel good about that then.
Good. I'm happy you feel good.
I'm happy too. I'm glad we're moving forward with reviewing policy.
Yes.
I have just one question about these committees. Will we be recording them?
My understanding is that any open meeting we do record, so I was thinking yes.
Okay, because does
We aren't legally required to, though.
that mean video recording or audio? What I'm thinking of is for trustees who won't be participating on these committees, should they want to be kept up to date, there would be some where they could see the video, because audio is really difficult to schedule. I wouldn't want to add any more, but it was just my thought. So,
We can
What-
take that into consideration. I don't think we had gotten that far in
We
our
haven't
planning
gotten
yet,
that
but.
far.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, we're happy to record them just like we do with our open meetings now. It doesn't change any of our setup, but we're not legally required to video record them, so that really is a board choice.
Thank you.
Thank you, Valerie. Okay. 11C, is there a motion to review the updated roof condition assessment?
I'd like to make a motion to review the updated roof condition assessment report from BEC and select the final roof project bid request option.
Just make sure you touch the button to turn your mic on.
Yes. Should like,
Thank you.
Margaret, do you have to take the roll? No, I mean, there was a motion, so I don't know.
As long as it was seconded, then he could present.
it
Okay.
was second.
All right, cool.
Seconded.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, sure. My name's Dave Balistreri. I'm the president of Building Envelope Consultants.
Thanks for coming. Welcome.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. Thanks for having me. This is good. So what's transpired since our last meeting is that we completed our moisture scan using infrared technology. We discovered that the fingerprint of the moisture in the roof has not changed substantially, which is a great thing. And as a consequence of that knowledge, we decided to take a second look at what our options were without having to do any kind of variance. I know that our marching orders after our last meeting were to call the building official and get him on record that they're going to provide us with a variance and that sort of thing. Yeah, I thought that out long and hard after we obtained the new data. And I know that the question from the building official, their question is going to be, well, what's your design? What are you proposing? And I knew I didn't have anything to go back to them and say, this is what we're going to be proposing. So what we did do was we kind of reestablished what our good, better, best options could be based on this new information, and we laid them out in that report. And so and you know, I don't want to waste a lot of people's time reiterating what you already know, but the new good, better, best, not one of them requires a variance from the building official. None of the three would require a variance from the code. Yeah.
That puts us in a good place.
I think so, yeah. So really, the decision here is, you know, how much do you want to spend? That's really what it comes down to, because excuse me, in each one of these situations, you can obtain a 20-year manufacturer warranty, a water tightness warranty for the membrane. So if we're not going to be replacing the insulation, that won't be part of the warranty. However, that's kind of what's being protected by the membrane in the first place. So if the installation of the membrane goes as planned, we shouldn't have to worry about water tightness anyway. So the installation contractor is going to be providing their own 2-year workmanship guarantee to kick it off, and then everything else is material defect after that. So I have a hard time trying to convince you guys to spend, you know, over $1 million on buying a bunch of new insulation that you probably aren't going to find an ROI on. Now, I admittedly did not do the ROI analysis because that's not what we do. We're not energy, you know, engineers. But I know that maybe your utility company might be able to come in and talk about. I just don't see those dollars coming back in energy savings, but I don't have a crystal ball. I try to give our clients the best possible service life dollar, you know, at all times. And so in this case, I mean, my recommendation would be to just remove the existing membrane, replace the wet insulation on an as-needed basis, address the penetrations that we want to remove from the roof, which will also improve your energy use because you won't have these big vents, you know, releasing warm air from the facility, and then put down a new membrane and pretty much leave everything else as is. Well, I mean, best, I guess, you know, it's.
Because good, you're not really doing it as much stuff, are you?
We're not adding any more insulation, and as a consequence, we're not increasing the size of all the sheet metal. There's a lot of sheet metal that's going to be able to be reused. We're not tearing anything off of the deck. We're leaving everything just pretty much as is, except in isolated locations where there's wet insulation, cutting it out, putting in new insulation. The existing membrane will be removed to the fastening locations, which is at the seams. So the panels will go, exposing the existing insulation, and then the new membrane will be adhered to the existing surface of the roof in foam adhesive. It'll be a fleece back membrane. That's what is allowing the manufacturers to offer the 20-year warranty. Otherwise, they wouldn't do it. Otherwise, they'd say, well, we need to put a new cover board on at the very least. But by putting a fleece back membrane down and foam adhesive satisfies the requirements of the manufacturers, competing manufacturers. So we have that going for us as well.
David, may I? Yes. So if I'm understanding you correctly, and just to recap in very general sense, so we didn't have a worst case scenario with our roofing, right? In the sense that you didn't find excessive damage that progressed from the previous report, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, thank goodness for the workmanship then.
Yes.
Right. And well, let me just hear some more feedback, and then I'll formulate a question. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Well, I'd like to interject here and say that in the memorandum included with the report from BEC, I spoke with our facilities manager, and we both agreed that the updated good option is our best investment for the library because the returns on investment from what Rich is looking into as far as our utility costs would not make sense for us to go with the better or the best option. It's not cost effective. So we agree on that. And the updated good option is on page 160 of your packet.
I have a quick question here. On page 159, it's 1.03. It says the negative is no warranty provided except for workmanship, which is 2 years. But then over here, I'm reading there's a 20-year warranty, so I'm a little confused.
On page 159 was the previous recommendation before we had all of the information.
Okay,
So it says, right next to the number 103, our previous recommendations included this. on
Gotcha.
Page
Okay.
159. But what we are talking about and potentially voting on today
he's on 160.
is on page 160 under 105.
All right, thank you.
And may I just add
Please.
something, sir? Our previous recommendation did not replace the membrane. It was just going to coat it. That's why you got no warranty. Yeah.
Wasn't any 20-year the last time. And I
Right.
was like, there's no way I'm voting for good,
Yep.
because, but that makes sense, we weren't replacing the membrane. With replacing the membrane, big difference,
Yep.
okay.
So we're literally looking at, by going with the good option over the better, a $350,000 savings plus or minus 10%. And over the best option, we're looking at a $700,000 savings plus or minus 10%. And Dave, I fully respect your opinion as your job, but Rich, you're 100% comfortable. I respect your opinion just as much as anybody else when it comes to things like this, because you know this building better than anybody else. Your opinion is the good is,
Right, so we wrote the memo to indicate why we think that after the review, especially the thermal scan, that it makes more of appropriate sense that the good option, now that it is a replacement of the membrane and replacement of any insulation that's not up to par, it's not dry, it's wet, we feel that's going to be the best investment, because if we add even some amounts of insulation, it can come up to about 350, maybe 400,000. We spend $16,000 a year in natural gas costs to heat the building. There's no way we're going to recoup all of that money. We'd have to recoup $17,500 for 20 years in order to for that.
Of
Now,
course.
yes. So what about the cooling? Well, yes, we have a new chiller from 2019 that we put onto the roof. Some of you were here; you saw that being put in. That chiller is 10 compressors. We run about 20. There are 10 of them, right? So you can only run either it's on or it's off, but some level of energy is used. So we run about 20% of that during the summer. And if I looked at it, and it was about $7,000 current electric prices that it's eating in terms of the cooling.
Okay.
So again, together, it's not going to return anything near what we're going to spend to add that insulation. It's not going to help the building. So it's kind of wasting money.
Okay.
Basically, if we were here and we, before it was a different ballgame, right? But now that we have this report, we can get a new membrane. It makes no sense to spend money on something that you're not going to get any return on.
Perfect.
You're not going to get a return on your investment from an energy perspective. You're not going to get, it's not supporting the roof better or any kind of, it's not giving us anything.
okay, perfect.
So we don't want to waste money, basically.
The
That's
only,
why
oth-
we came back to have the board reevaluate this and approve a better option for us to go.
okay. The only other question I do have, because I get very concerned with water because I've had floods in my house and things like that. We will, when we have it open, we will inspect for mold and make sure that everything's clean under there as well, just that there's no mold or any like mold into the other insulation that's around the wet insulation. Will we be doing anything like that?
That's a loaded question. There won't be any active searching for mold. I mean, if there's insulation that we see from the surface that's moldy,
Yeah.
obviously that'll be cut out
Okay.
to good material, but we're not going to be like removing, looking
No,
underneath.
I understand that, but like you'll be looking around the areas that we're replacing. You'll be able to see right there if there's any mold or anything, and if you have to go a little bit further, you'll go a little bit further and take that out as well. Correct?
Sure,
Okay.
absolutely, yeah.
I have a question, somewhat related to what Trustee Trunko just said. So is there any chance that when we try to go with the updated good option, if you get up there and the damage is more extensive than maybe what the survey said, would you discuss that with us? How would that work?
Oh, as soon as we saw something, worse than what we had envisioned, that we definitely bring it. We just stop and
Okay,
let you know. Yeah.
okay, perfect.
I'm not envisioning that, though.
Good.
I have just one question. I'm sorry, were you speaking?
No.
Oh, I just have one question. We determined that the moisture hadn't changed substantially based on that infrared drone. Is that how you checked it? I forgot what the testing procedure was.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Sounds to me that $7,500 was well worth it if we're going to save a few $100,000.
Yes.
That was really good news.
That's why I'd like to promote that technology.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was well worth it. Thank you.
The big difference between now and last time was the good option, we didn't get the whole
Membrane.
membrane.
Correct.
So, I mean, there was no way I was voting for something when we weren't having the whole membrane.
Absolutely.
Now, I can see it.
So I do have a suggestion for an updated motion.
Okay.
If the board would put forward a motion to approve the updated good option in BEC's report so that we can move forward with a bid.
Yep, I'd like to amend my motion to I'd like to make a new, amend my motion to go ahead and approve, you said a good option, right?
The
Sorry.
updated
The
good option.
updated good option, just for reference, on page 161.05.1 of BEC's proposal to fix the roof.
Second,
I think Suzanne seconded.
oh, sorry. She said it so soft I didn't hear it.
We got to vote on that.
Thank you.
Trustee Derblick?
Yes.
Trustee Schoenfeld?
Yes.
Treasurer Botello?
Yes.
Secretary Rozanski?
Yes.
Vice President Trunko?
Yes.
President Keene?
Yes.
6 to
Thank you,
0
Dave.
passes.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Dave. All right, I'd like to make a motion to revoke the two resolutions titled "A Resolution of the Board of Library Trustees of the Niles Main District Library, Cook County, Illinois, regarding closed session recordings and minutes," one which was adopted by the Board of Trustees on June 16, 2021, and the other was adopted by the Board of Trustees on October 18, 2023. Additionally, I move for the adoption of the revisions of the policy of the Niles Main District Library regarding verbatim recording of closed meetings as presented.
Second. Any comments?
I have one question. At last month's meeting, it was determined, because of the difficulty trying to reach trustee Rosansky by email or telephone, she was going to provide her cell phone number.
Yes, and I told the director she could give it to you. I will give it to you before you leave now.
Okay, so I haven't received it. If you could just give me that now, I'd like to vote to approve this.
I'll give it to you when we're not on public meeting. In private, I'll give it to you, because I don't need everybody and his brother calling me.
Well, you could write it on a piece of paper. That would be fine. I would like to approve
I
this.
said you will get it this evening.
Thank you.
Well, that's what you told me last month.
Yeah, okay, fine, thank you.
Okay. All right, then I think we're ready for a vote.
Trustee Derblick?
I have to vote no. I'm in the same position I was in last month. So until I receive that phone number, I can't agree with anything. Thank you.
Trustee Schoenfeld? Treasurer Botello?
Yes.
Secretary Rosansky?
Yes.
Vice President Trunko?
Yes.
President Keen?
Yes,
4-2 passes.
thank you. Okay, so number 12, other.
I just have one brief other. I believe it was last month when we were talking about recordings and things of other committees. I mentioned the Community Relations Committee that they weren't recording. I was sent an email by a member of the public who actually corrected that they still are recording those. So I just wanted to clarify my statement was incorrect and that the Community Relations Committee over at the village does still record their minutes for their meeting. So that's it.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Oh, I had just one question. I'm thinking this is to you, President Keen. Trustee Trunko mentioned that he had talked about changing the cleaning procedure sometime after the board meeting, and it was decided outside of the board meeting that would be done.
I asked Rich in the last board meeting upstairs. I asked him if we were going to dial that back. I had a conversation with him at the meeting, and I asked about if we could dial that back. And I did talk to him at the conclusion of the meeting to explain why. So that it was nothing was decided outside the meeting. It was something that I asked inside the meeting in open session.
Okay, so the purpose of me bringing this up is that we seem to be having conversations and making decisions not at the board meeting. While I think it was an excellent question and the result seems beneficial, it's my understanding that decisions must be voted on in a board meeting. They can't be made elsewhere. And we seem to be doing that quite often.
It's actually not a decision that the board would have to make. That's actually an administrative decision, which is why we have an executive director and we have Rich in place. It was a question that I brought up and expressed my feelings why, because of my personal professional opinion.
I understand. I totally understand.
Can I just finish 1 second? Mm-hmm. So there is no decision made by a board member or any board or anybody in particular except for our administrative staff. That's why we have them here, and that's not something we should be overseeing. It was a question that was brought up. It was looked into by our administrative staff. I appreciate our administrative staff doing that, and it's not a board decision.
And
It's
to
an
follow up on
administrative.
that, I didn't even know about it until tonight either.
Okay, but again, if I can just clarify, because I don't seem to be making my points. That item is part of the budget. This board approved the budget and all decisions referring to it. I think because this isn't the first time a decision has been made or a vote has not been taken in a board meeting, I think we need to get clarification. And I know you're against us contacting the attorney, but maybe Trustee Keen should, because we need to know what is an administrative decision that does not have to do with a board vote, especially when it comes to budget dollars.
Well, I think that the staff creates the budget and we approve it, and then they are the ones who implement it and see how it is spent. That's very clearly spelled out in some of the trustee training materials. I think that also when we have the parliamentarian come in to do trustee training, as I mentioned earlier tonight, she's going to help us delineate what the director does and what the board does so that we are clearer on that.
Okay, because it was brought to my attention by an attorney that we should not be making decisions without a vote. So, and I know
Well,
I've heard a few things. I just want to bring it up. So once we can get clarification, that'll be great.
Right,
Thank
and
you.
expenses over $5,000 are the times when those things would be coming to the board. But this was actually a decrease in spending, so that doesn't need to come to the board.
There's a lot going on, and all I hear is afterthought. So I appreciate that, though.
Well,
So-
I'm sorry, just a second what President Keen just said. This was something that was well within budget, even spending it, but this was actually a decrease that we actually saved money in a line item. So again, I thank the staff and the administrative staff for doing everything that they did.
Valerie, go ahead.
I will say that standard practice in libraries is that the library board, as some of the trustees have mentioned, approve the overall budget for the library. And as long as no line item budget is being overspent, it does not go back to the board, or as long as I am not, or no individual is spending more than the 5,000, which is part of the bylaws. Those are the current standards in place as far as I understand in the library. Everything else as far as how to spend within the line items falls to the library, because there is no way for us to budget for every single item that's going to come up throughout a year, even during the budgeting process. So standard practice is that as the library administrator, yes, I will take suggestions from any trustee to look into, and I did communicate, as I did today in my director's report, the change that we made so that you're aware of it. But as far as the decision-making process for administrative practices, as long as I fall within the budget, as I said, and within the parameters and the bylaws, those decisions, standard practice, do fall to me as the director.
And so what you're saying, Director Valerie Marshall, is that you will notify us when decisions are made that don't take place on the board, like this one. So
Yes, absolutely.
Actually, I read your report. I didn't see that
That
in it.
was on my sticky note. That was something that came up after the report was written.
Oh, okay. I see. But
But I
otherwise,
will
at least
inform
you'll
you.
notify us.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Great, thank you.
President King, I have a question. And this may be for the director as well. But as I've
May I have your attention, please? The library will be.
So as we've over time have talked about consulting for legal advice, I'm just curious, is there legal representation that's specific to library needs? Because I keep hearing that we're consulting with different attorneys for different matters, and I'm just curious, is there a specialist that specializes in the needs of a library board?
So, yeah, excuse me. We do currently employ two different firms. One is Kleinthorpe and Jenkins, which is a firm that does specialize in library law. And the other firm is Engler, Callaway, and Lisa Callaway's firm, which ECBS, that has been helping us with the union negotiations. And as far as the not being able to contact lawyers, that's actually what we agreed as a board earlier last year, I guess now, was that if a trustee wanted to contact any of the lawyers, that was fine, but then we would copy Umair, because he is also a lawyer, and he would be like the board liaison with the lawyer, so that we weren't having different trustees asking the same questions and thereby spending more money. So that is the policy, or not, it's not an actual in-writing policy, but the board did agree upon that. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Trustee Keene, just to that note, that's another thing we didn't vote on in a board meeting.
We agreed upon it verbally.
When?
And
It
we
wasn't
did. I think we all remember,
it's not-
correct?
No, yeah, well, you have conversations outside
No,
of
it was
board
in the
meetings.
meeting. We were all there.
No, I remember that I wasn't part of that conversation. So I'm just saying, these are other things that are coming up, that we're making decisions, and there wasn't a vote.
But we agreed upon it verbally, and if you can't remember that,
No,
I'm
but
sorry
all
about
of
that.
you agree on it because the five of you communicate after meetings. I'm saying we need to
No, it
bring
was
things to
during
the
a
board
closed
meeting.
session meeting, I believe.
I haven't talked to any.
Well, I would like to know when that
Well,
board
if you
meeting
have
was.
reviewed the recordings, then you would know, which you have done, so.
No, I do not review all the recordings.
Pertaining to
But thank you, I made my point, thank you.
You did, thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
I have some
sorry.
other of my
Oh,
own.
I'm sorry, I thought we were ready.
Oh, you do, go ahead, Patty. Put your microphone on.
My comment, last meeting, I made the suggestion that I would look at my emails twice a week. I have been. I have not received one email from another board member. So by saying they can't contact me, and me saying I prefer to be contacted in writing and they refuse to do it, apparently we have to get together because that's the way it is.
Thank you.
Excuse me, I don't understand. Are you talking about something specifically, Trustee Rosansky? I'm really not understanding your comment.
whole problem. You only hear what you want to hear.
Okay.
Please
right.
clarify, what are you talking
So
about?
let's just move on. I think. Thank you. And so my only others are, I did email all the trustees asking for your availability in April on Saturdays for the parliamentarian training. So please respond to me. I didn't get too many responses on that. And I also emailed possible dates for the decennial committee and haven't gotten a lot of responses on that. So please do respond quickly so that I can get those things scheduled. And Valerie, I just wanted to thank you for your first meeting tonight and all the hard work you've put in since you've been here. You're doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you to the board for, again, working towards policy review and agreeing to participate with me in continuing education. I really think we're going to do great things here.
I'd like to make a motion now to adjourn the meeting at 8:20 PM.
Second.
I already seconded, thank you.
Trustee Derblick? Trustee Schoenfeld? Treasurer Vitello?
Yes.
Secretary Rosansky?
Yes.
Vice President Trunko?
Yes.
President Keene?
Yes,
Okay,
8:19.
6-0.
Thank you.